One of the most magical and frightening times in a couple's life, the birth of a child. But with the COVID-19 pandemic, new rules are forcing many women to do it alone without their partners to help.
First, a local woman says that she arrived here having contractions, but when she reached the triage unit, she was told that she had to go it alone.
And as soon as I said that, I felt her just move down, and I was like, uh-oh. And my husband was like, what's wrong? And I was like, I think she's coming. And he was like, should I call 911?
Welcome to my channel, or welcome back. As you know, we're currently still experiencing a pandemic. A lot of folks are having home births during this time due to restrictions at the hospital or birthing center, or just because of the virus itself. As always, this choice belongs to the birthing person, and it's their right to choose where they want to give birth. We all go through things differently and handle situations differently, and as best as we can. The birther's name in this story is Erin. She's in New Jersey. For some reason, I was panicked all day that the baby's back was to my back, and that was keeping her from coming. So all day I stayed busy, jumping on the trampoline with the kids, cleaning the backyard, and getting it ready for spring fun. That night, when we put the boys to sleep, I laid on their floor with my butt up in the air in a puppy dog pose for 30 minutes in hopes to give her room to turn into the right position. I don't want to turn this into some big educational thing like I like to do. I like to go off on tangents on educational stuff. But I like to educate you whenever information is just provided like that. So this person believed that their baby's back was turned towards their back, and this can make it difficult or painful for a baby to come. Their position really can impact a birthing person. Some of you may know about something called spinning babies, where you can turn your baby and get your baby in a more optimal position for childbirth. So that's what she was doing when she says she was putting her butt up in the air. That's what that is. And you know, if you're about to give birth and you're thinking that your baby's turned the right way, or you hear your provider say that, look up spinning babies. Look up the optimal birthing position for your baby. I came out to watch our Thursday night shows and bounced on my yoga ball for 30 minutes. Steve and I watched Station 19 in Grey's Anatomy when I took a shower, and we went to bed at 10:30. The second I laid my head on the pillow and propped my pillow between my legs, I felt a surge. This wasn't abnormal, as it had been happening for a few nights from 37 weeks. So I chucked it off as nothing. And then about 7 minutes later, it happened again. For about an hour, I laid there thinking these would go away for sure and I'll get some sleep and wake up in the AM, still pregnant. I texted Kate and told her I think I'm in labor, like 97% chance. Kate might be her doula or someone that supports her. 11:35, I told her scratch that, 99% chance. At this point, I had gotten up out of bed. I tried to lay and rest, but laying made it feel more painful. I also felt like I had to clean. Through contractions, I started cleaning. I did laundry 4 loads, I washed the dishes, and cleaned the kitchen. It started getting progressively harder to work through contractions, and I kept having to pee. At one point, I peed myself a little and thought, was that pee or my waters? Spoiler alert, it was pee. April 3rd, which this started, remember, on April 2nd. So this is the next day. After finishing up cleaning, I tried to watch TV on my yoga ball. I turned on Friends and realized the TV was annoying me more than anything. At around 1 a.m., I got myself a towel and laid it on the living room floor in front of the ottoman. This is where I labored for a good amount of time. I had my knees apart on the floor and my arms and my chest stretched outward onto the ottoman. She was getting in a great position to bring that baby out and to open those hips up. It sounds like I don't have a visual of this, but in my mind, I can see what position she's in. If you can squat, if you can get on your hands and knees, that is great for baby, great for you when you're in labor or when you're pushing. So think of those positions while you're in labor. Find what's comfortable for you, especially while you're in labor, and try to get into that position when you're in transition or when you're about to push. And of course, if you're uncomfortable as you labor, keep switching positions as much as you can until you can find what's comfortable for you. Each surge, I'd swayed my hips and ride the wave. At this point, I called my sleeping parents about 76 times. That sounds like me. They, like the rest of the world, were fast asleep. I was so worried I'd go into active labor while they weren't there to help with the kids. That also sounds like me, because my main worry when I was in labor is who is going to make sure my daughter eats dinner. Someone has got to watch my daughter so they can make sure she eats, because I am not going to let her miss dinner. And I did not miss dinner. I cooked dinner and I made it for her and I sent her next door to my parents' house to eat it. Back to the story, sorry. They finally woke up around 3:40 and told me they were headed this way. I then woke up Steve and told him maybe we should go to the hospital. In my gut, I did not want to go to the hospital, but I also didn't want him to be scared or unsure of what to do if we delivered at home, which is totally understandable. If you've never had a home birth, regardless of how many children that you've had, it might be a little scary for your partner or for whoever to be unsure of what to do if you have a home birth. But this person sounds incredibly educated and prepared had they planned for a home birth. So I think it's really cool that she ended up coming back and having a home birth. They knew what to do. I think instinctually, and if you really want something, you can do it, and that's what she did exactly. Steve got up and showered, and I set the coffee maker for my mom. My parents got here and we headed out. She set the coffee maker for her mom while she was in labor. Why is she an angel? The hospital is about 25 minutes from our house. On the way to the hospital, I had about 6 contractions. It was hard to sit up and turn around in the car seat because sitting down was excruciating. We happily walked into the hospital, stopping once to have a contraction in on our walk. We get inside and our happy-go-lucky moods instantly were crushed. This could be a possible trigger warning to some. I wasn't like triggered or anything, but I did cry and cried like a baby whenever I read this. It's only because just how Erin was treated while she was in labor. I was mistreated while I was in labor. I was mistreated by my OB throughout pregnancy. I don't want this to happen to anyone, and when you read it and you just hear about other people experiencing this, you just want to hug them. You just want to yell at everybody that did them wrong. Of course, most nurses and obstetricians probably don't even know that they're doing wrong, and that's what's so frustrating, is that they don't know. And they could talk to so many birthing people like this all the time. And that's not to say that hospitals are bad and that nurses are mean or whatever. That's just to say that they could unknowingly do this to people, and it doesn't stop, it doesn't end, because they don't know what they're doing. We walked into 2 employees wearing masks. One was a makeshift desk at the front right door of OB triage. She told us to stop and immediately started asking me questions about COVID-19. Had I been out of the country in the last month? If I was sick? And a few more questions. All precautions, I know. But while in labor, it's not fun. It's not fun to be questioned in labor. It's not fun to sign into the hospital. It's not fun. She then tells me she had to take my temp. She then says, okay, so he cannot come in with you. You'll have to go wait in the car until they're ready for you. And if I wasn't already freaked out by the masks and being stopped at the entrance of the OB triage, I was now. I had a full-blown panic attack. I could not do this without my husband. I already couldn't have my mom and my doula there, and they were taking my husband away. Just COVID-19 in general has created a lot of fear for everyone. It has created mental health issues for people and different things like that. So I totally understand the fear of just seeing all these things and the world being completely different than it was before. Especially understand being afraid of giving birth without your partner there. I've thought about this for months, like birthing people being stripped from their partners, their doulas, whoever, when giving birth. How are birthing people going to feel safe and comfortable to birth without their support? I just can't imagine not having support there. I couldn't do it. I would have a panic attack too. I walked out of the entrance and freaked out. Steve calmed me down and reassured me everything is going to be okay. At this point, I tried to calm down and walked into the triage entrance. They're behind the glass wearing masks. The woman checks me in and I have contractions. Someone comes into the door and says to come in when I'm ready. She weighed me and brought me to a room. The woman coldly tells me to undress and to get into the stuff she was laying on the bed and to pee in this cup. I ask if I can wear my sports bra and loose open sweater I'd been wearing, and she rudely said, nah. So I didn't listen. I peed in the cup and took my pants off and placed the belly band on so they could monitor me and baby. Another nurse comes in and says, are you ready? I said yes, come in. I was getting all the belly band on and still at this point, and the woman saw me and said, oh God, you're exposed. I'll come back. So this part was super weird to me. You're exposed. Like, regardless, if she was naked or in a bra or just changing, these nurses are about to see her probably pooping, everything. Maybe vomiting. They're about to see a lot of bodily fluids come out. And she's uncomfortable because the person's exposed. And I understand maybe like walking in on someone like, oh my god, I'm so sorry I walked in on you naked. Like, I totally understand that. Maybe that's where the nurse was coming from. So I get the band on and wait for her to come back, and she comes back. Are you ready? Opens the curtain and again says, oh, you're still exposed. I said, I'm here to have a baby. I'm going to be exposed and I'm comfortable. So that's a pretty good statement. I mean, what else can you say? She reluctantly continues to set up the monitors and starts asking me a ton of questions. I know this is normal as I've had 2 hospital births, but at this point I'm annoyed and I'm scared and I want my husband. They hook me up and they try to get me in the bed where I refuse to go because my contractions were up until we got to the hospital, were more intense when I was sitting. If you've had children, mobile versus sitting down, I could not sit in a comfortable position when I was in labor, not at all. If I did sit, it was on my birth ball, and then I did sit for like 30 minutes when I was in transition, but in different positions. Like, I was all over the bed, hands and knees, upright, leaning, whatever. Like, I could not sit on my butt. I could barely sit on the toilet. Toilet contractions were the absolute worst. So I totally understand her not wanting to sit. So I stand and try to get comfortable and the nurse leaves me. A little while later, an OB comes in and says she's here to check me. She has me lay down and checks me and says, lay down on the bed and open your legs, then scuffs rudely. She's only at 3 and 80%. Takes her hands off of me, takes off her gloves and walks out of the room. Says nothing to me. The nurse says, we'll be back in a bit, you just hang tight. At this point, my labor has stalled, my contractions had stopped being consistent. I was crying, I was scared. It was bright, it was cold, I was alone, and all I could think was how I needed my husband. I just needed him. So some people do find comfort in the hospital. Some people find comfort in the options of having medication and whatever the hospital might have to offer. Some hospitals are tremendous and offer great care. And hospitals are needed. They're needed for folks, you know, who are high risk and who want to have a hospital birth and who need medical attention, especially those who have complications with their pregnancy and so on and so forth. However, to take like a birthing person who's uncomfortable with being there, adding these restrictions due to COVID-19, which is understandable, but I can see where the anxiety comes from is all I'm trying to say. And I can see being alone, being somewhere bright, cold, where no one's treating you as if you're a person, just as if you're this dilating vagina with a baby in it. I feel like that's how some nurses and providers treat folks because they're so desensitized to it. And that's not all nurses, it's not all providers. When I read stories like this, I see that. I see that they're just so desensitized and maybe even traumatized by the births that they've seen. I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent. I'll keep reading. The nurse comes back in and says, we need you to lay down. We can't get a read on the baby. Points at the screen. See her heart rate? It's all over. I said, no thank you. She said, well, how are you feeling? I said, mentally or physically? She said, I don't really care about mentally. I'm just here for this. And then points from her waist down. I need to know how your labor is feeling. This pissed me off. Labor is not just what's happening in your body. It's mentally as well. Before I read the next sentence, I want to comment on this also because that pissed me off too. It being mental is like a huge part of labor and birth. And the fact that this provider or nurse or whoever said that it's not, I would want to leave too. I don't think I would have the balls to leave or the guts to leave, so I'm so proud of her. You don't just deliver a baby like bam. Your mind is such a big part of it. You have to feel safe and comfortable and heard. I was not feeling any of those things. The nurse says, look, just get into bed and we'll monitor you 20 to 30 minutes. I look at her and say no. She said, just lay down. I said, no, I'm going home. She said, just lay down. I flip my shit, rip the monitors off, and say, get out. I put my pants on and leave. As I'm leaving, the nurse yells behind me, hope you feel better, as if I was sick or something. I'm in full-blown panicking at this point. I can't get my phone unlocked, the stupid face recognition wasn't working, and I was shaking. Finally, I call Steve and I'm almost at the car. I get in and we head home. He seems worried, but just trusted me, I guess. My labor had stopped I almost asked him to stop somewhere to eat, but nothing was open, and I wanted to be back home where I was safe. The ride home, I had 2 contractions. 2. Remind you, I had 6 to 7 on the way to the hospital. I was in fight or flight mode, for sure. So, I've been through a childbirth education course. I'm in therapy. I legit just talked about fight, flight, or freeze with my therapist today. Your body can stall labor because it no longer feels safe to have a child. We get home at 7 a.m. My boys are awake and very excited to see me. I say hi, pee, and tell my family I'm going to try and rest. At this point, I've been awake since Thursday at 6:30 a.m. Since my labor had stalled, I figured it would be a perfect time to rest. Little did I know that laying in my safe, warm, dark bedroom would instantly start back labor. After about 10 maybe minutes of trying to get comfortable, I moved to the bathroom for the tub around 7:10, 7:15. I climb into the tub and just labor away. My parents leave to go home and I shower and thank Steve. I start to feel hungry, but really don't want to throw up a bunch of food, so I ask Steve to cut me up an orange. I figured I could suck the juice and try to give me energy. It helps. I labor on and off. Jackson comes in to pee. Remy comes in to check on me and hangs out for a little while. At this point, the water was helping a lot. Bad idea. It was very loud out there. My boys were excited to see me and just wanted to hang out and touch me. I had 2 contractions and decided it's time to go back to being alone in the bathroom. Then I text my doula. I tell her I'm in labor and it hurts really bad. At this point, every contraction I'm trying to breathe. I'm also vocalizing low with the mindset as if I'm making low sounds. I'm relaxing everything. Low moans and low sounds are really important for opening yourself up. You can actually visualize yourself opening up with those low, deep moans. I think that the hip squeeze sounds terrible, but she trusts her doula and she tells Steve she needs his help now. I say, I need you to do the hip squeeze. It gives me so much relief, but unfortunately we have 3 kids that are like, what's going on in there? I have to pee. Just trying to get in there. Loudness was very overwhelming to me. Steve at one point says, go pee outside, which made me laugh. We called my parents and they're already about 30 minutes away and had no clue I was so close to the end. I say let's call the neighbor and she can sit with the kids until my parents get here. I was in so much pain I wanted to get the epidural. I thought I could not possibly do this any longer. I was in so much pain. Transition. Every contraction I was trying to breathe through. I was trying to vocalize, but now no matter how loud I moaned, the pain didn't go away. Either I peed myself or water is coming out. At this same time, I feel pressure like I'm pooping. I think I'm pooping and it feels like I'm pooping. I grab a baby wipe and check. I was not pooping. Another contraction comes and he squeezes. I feel head plop into my birth canal. I think, oh fuck, it's happening. My neighbor's here and I think 5 to 10 minutes later and I hear out of the bathroom window, I'm here, want me to come in, which I respond. She screams, basically. This was the contraction. I feel her head drop down. She comes in, I tell Steve she's coming, fill the tub, fill the tub. I felt the ring of fire. I remember thinking there's no possible way I'm dilated enough to push a baby out. All of a sudden, it felt like my body was throwing up, but just from the other side. This purging feeling I couldn't stop. I felt the same thing. That's what I tell everyone. It felt like I was throwing up out of my vagina, out of my butt. It felt like my body was legit pushing all of my insides out. Steve asks, should I call 911? I couldn't answer, just shake my head no. I knew what to do. He for sure did not know, but he was following my lead, trusting me, which I could not thank him more for. I get in the tub on my knees, sitting up straight, and I reach down and feel lots of pressure. I just hold myself. I didn't want to tear. Steve checks to make sure the neighbor got inside and the kids are okay. Everyone's okay. He was gone for maybe 30 seconds. Maybe. I have a surge without even knowing it. My body pushes her head out. I was literally in shock. I didn't know what was happening. All I felt was relief. A ton of water rushing in. It was then I realized my water had not broke yet and her head popping out made that happen. Steve comes back 30 seconds later and said, her head's out. My contractions had stopped for what felt like 2 minutes maybe, and then it starts again and I get that throw up type urge again. I lean forward and say, catch her. She comes out into the tub and Steve snatches her up. I literally cannot believe this just happened. I stand up and walk over the cord and have Steve hand her to me. As I stand up, I see my kids running out the front door from the bathroom window to my parents' car. Tatum announcing, the baby's here! My parents rush inside and poke their head in the bathroom to see what the baby was indeed here. Both my parents with tears in their eyes and just as much shock and awe as we were in. Like, can you imagine not really being prepared for a home birth, especially the family and the partner? And then boom, it happens, and the excitement, and the kids, like, running around. Like, I can totally imagine all of this. You did a great job. From here, my dad hung with the kids, and my mom didn't leave my side. Steve and her stayed by my side and helped. A few minutes after she was delivered, my body started contracting again. fuck me, I still have to deliver the placenta. I try to get out of the tub and I can't. I just sit down and we call my Grammy and Pop and tell them what happened. We eventually get out of the tub. Steve has laid out 7,000 puppy pee pads on the bed. I tried to get comfy. I could not. We nursed, and man, that intensified the contractions big time. I just wanted the damn placenta out. I kept thinking my placenta for all it's done and telling it can leave my body now. I'm ready to care for the baby now. It didn't listen. I decided about an hour and a half later that we need to cut the cord. We clamped the cord with sterile stitchers that my dad had in his car. I go to the toilet thinking maybe that'll help deliver the placenta. I sat down, pee, and bam, it came out. My dad runs to get us lunch and cake while I shower. We all celebrate. My parents help clean up, packed up the kids, and left Steve and I home to snuggle away on the couch. Everything felt perfect. Isn't it weird that one of my favorite parts of this story is when she asks her placenta, you know, like, placenta, I don't need you anymore. Like, I love that part because we don't really acknowledge our placentas and we don't really acknowledge that as a birth. And again, Erin seems so knowledgeable about the entire birth process. I love her. And this birth story in particular was just amazing. I'm so proud of this couple, the husband for trusting Erin, the parents, everyone came together to support Erin, and this is an amazing birth. I loved this birth outcome, and I hate what happened to get it there, but I'm happy and proud of Erin. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you'd like, and I'll see you next time.